Hello everyone, especially Steamians at steamit.com. This is Colonel. Today is January 13th. I'll be reading my post on the infographic and text for the Trinity of Consciousness Symbolism. First, I'll start with mentioning the Legend of Colors, which has a multiple contextual applicability, but in general for this infographic, I'm referring to it this way. Blue represents internal or receptive or passive, and therefore feminine. Red represents external or active and therefore masculine. Green represents the unification or activated states, such as from uniting the internal blue and external red to make green. I've used blue, red, and green before based on the frequencies of light, where red is the lowest and blue is the highest, while green is in the middle. This is used to symbolize certain meaning through color, which helps in our imagery and understanding of concepts. Now that that's out of the way, let's begin. Thoughts. Thoughts are where it all starts. Since thoughts are first, they are the first active and also generative state within us. Thoughts are also part of our internal unseen realm that is unique to each individual. This is why thoughts are red, because they are active. They are internal, which makes them blue, and they are the first generative and manifestation essence within ourselves, which makes them green. When our thoughts are not contradictory, when we have integrated a coherent and cohesive understanding of reality, when our left red and right blue brained modalities of consciousness are not in opposition, but are harmonized in unison, in green, then we have the symbolism of a, quote, unified mind or, quote, one eye, present for that particular task or function we are engaged in at the time. We could be unified at one moment, yet divided another. The green unified mind or one eye symbolism is an activated state formed through a synthesis of our analytical and intellectual left brain capacities holistically integrated with our imaginative and intuitive right brain capacities. Thoughts are our internal cognition, the generative essence that starts everything. As such, it is both internal but also active in that it is the active generative essence and force that gets the ball rolling. Since this is the activated and therefore masculine symbolism, this relates to the religious symbolism of a source generative essence for creating, represented as the father or male figure. This is, quote, God in the Christian Trinity. We, consciousness, are the, quote, gods that affect, manifest, generate, and create into reality. We are all creators, and symbolism is used to represent who we are. This deep self-knowledge is lost over time as people interpret symbolism, metaphor, allegory, analogy, and parable as literal. Even before we get to physical action with our hands to create things in the world, like our source generative essence is capable of doing, we are able to express our internal thoughts through speech and words, which are external actions. As mentioned, the thoughts are part of our internal unseen realm within consciousness that can be symbolically referred to as the, quote, spirit. I've done some work on the etymology of the word spirit, what it was created to reference, and how we reference it ourselves. The two demonstrable definitions I derived are that of first being a reference to consciousness, psyche, quote, soul, quote, spirit, and self as meaning the same thing, while the other secondary meaning that we use refers to goodness or morality. The other component in the internal unseen realm of manifesting consciousness is our emotions. In this internal unseen realm, represented through the color blue, we have a feedback process between our thoughts and emotions before we engage in the external manifestation of consciousness, which is represented through our actions and behavior, which includes speech and writing. Emotions. Emotions are in blue because they are part of the internal manifestations of consciousness, but also because they are receptive or passive and represented by the feminine. Emotions are also symbolized through the word, quote, heart, which is used as a reference due to its location within the middle of our body. As I mentioned before, green being the middle between blue and red, where our emotions, desires, and what we care to do, good or bad, will generate a driving force within us that motivates us and eventually leads us to act. In the Trinity of consciousness as well, emotions are in the middle between thoughts and actions, so they aptly fit the green color. To be in the heart, to have truer care and generate in an activated holistic capacity means we have both the recognition of the positive and negative within ourselves and the world, which will develop our true care and concern for what is going on, leading to our motivation to learn more truth so that we can empower ourselves to be in the position of understanding, to act in wisdom. Emotions are internal, yet are affective instead of cognitive, despite requiring cognition in order to apply meaning and valuation as an emotion. Thoughts and emotion are part of a properly functioning consciousness. But emotions are the aspect that affect us the most, which is why the study of emotions is called the affective sciences, while the study of our thoughts is part of the cognitive sciences. Tying this back to the religious trinity, the internal passive feminine is the religious mother figure, which contrasts the internal active masculine of the religious father figure. This is represented as the, quote, Holy Spirit in the Christian Trinity. I mentioned briefly the etymological and demonstrable definition of spirit as being the internal, unseen, formless, non-physical, metaphysical, motivational, generative essence of our consciousness itself. And our purpose, to be more spiritual, is to be more moral. I can get more into this another time to explain it more. Our emotions act as the Holy Spirit, which moves us to do things as the driving, motivational force in our lives. Our saliency towards the importance of things is how we value them, which requires emotions to be involved. Thoughts and emotions are the internal, unseen, hidden, quote, spirit aspects of consciousness. When they are unified in harmony, non-dual, non-contradictory, and not in opposition, and are aligned with what is right, good, and true, as a truly unified mind and one eye, with a developed heart care center, then we are capable of engaging in the wisdom of right action. Actions can be good or evil, and even contain qualities of both. We must be able to discern right from wrong more effectively as our lives progress. Actions. Actions are the culmination, unification, and synthesis of our internal expressions of consciousness, thoughts and emotions, as an external expression of consciousness, our actions. What we do with what we know is how we get things done in the world. First we are being internally, then we are doing externally. The goal of philosophy is about arriving at the wisdom of right action. Philosophy means the love of wisdom. Wisdom has an internal component in being wise in understanding, in your being. But the more important wisdom is when you actually act and engage in that understanding by creating into the world based on it. The purpose for all humans is to evolve consciousness towards greater wisdom of right action. Actions are external and symbolically represent the active, sacred masculine, the counterpart to the receptive or passive, sacred feminine. Actions are conative in terms of the scientific description as a trinity of the cognitive, affective, and conative theory of mind. In the Christian Trinity, and other trinities involving a father and mother that produce a divine male offspring, there is Jesus as the Son of God. God was the internal active masculine symbolism to represent ourselves, while the Son of God is the external, active masculine representation of ourselves. The divine male child is masculine in red, but also green, because actions are a generative force in the external world, as well as a unification of a man and woman to produce a child, which is also a generative process. The alchemical wedding of the father, the internal masculine qualities of consciousness, and the mother, the internal feminine qualities of consciousness, harmonize and unite to produce an external masculine synthesis. This Trinity symbolism is found in many ancient stories, legends, and mythologies. The Holy Trinity symbolic representation is found in many literary works or artistic representations from Sumeria, Babylonia, India, Greece, Egypt, Germany, Nordic lands, and more. The Trinity symbolism was used in many ways to represent different understandings. Esoteric knowledge is hidden under exoteric stories, and people forget about the original hidden meanings, where they then take the colorful, exoteric story as literal reality instead. Effects. Our actions produce effects in the world. We are all manifesting, generating, and creating into reality. All of us together collectively co-create the human world around us. As we all act and create effects and events, the world around us moves, and in turn we are affected by what happens in reality. Unity consciousness. The green triangle represents consciousness, psyche, quote soul, quote spirit, self, the fifth element quintessence. As our internal generative manifestations are united and create a unified external action in the world, so too are we then engaging in a unity consciousness where our thoughts, emotions, and actions do not contradict. We are to think, feel, and act in unison within ourselves internally and not be in internal opposition or conflict. But we must also think, feel, and act based on the existence of what is currently in reality and what has come before. The present is created from the past and leads us into the future. Cause and effect are central in life. Thoughts and emotions alone get nothing done in the manifested reality, although they are the axiomatic causal foundations that establish and motivate our actions in the world. If we want to engage in right action, we have to understand and care to know right from wrong, truth from falsity, in order to have the wisdom to engage in right action. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Peace. Take care. Peace. Take care. Peace. Take care. Peace.